everyone, esteemed guests, delegates, participants, friends of the hospitality industry and colleagues. Indeed, it's my honor to be here once again in Sri Lanka to present and speak to hospitality delegates and industry colleagues. When I was given this topic, and I chose this particular title, because I think it is something very, very important at the moment. It seems to be the mantra, I would say, of the hospitality industry, looking at marketing and branding, and also because it's a topic that is of my passion. So I'm here to share a little bit on branding, or driving your brand wagon in a brand-driven hospitality industry. Why is this becoming so important in our hospitality industry at the moment? As our honorary guest earlier was mentioning, if you look at the hospitality industry in Sri Lanka or around the world, there is so much of competition that we are facing. So many new players are entering the industry. There are so many changes that are happening, and if we are going to use the same model that we have been using over the years or decades, then it's going to be a major challenge. I think it is time that the industry looks at a reorientation, a rethinking of what marketing or branding is going to be in the hospitality industry in light of the changes or the challenges that we are facing. So I'm just going to begin. I hope to have a little bit of interaction as well, rather than just hear myself talk. So that's the reason why I put on a mic, so that I could reach out to you and have a conversation and dialogue with some people in front of you. What is going on in the hospitality industry is not only here. I train in hospitality and the tourism industry. I'm also training the hospital industry and the banks. Everywhere, every other industry is facing the same challenge that we are facing. That is looking at the major challenges, new entrants that are entering each of our industry. So when we look at the hospitality industry, we are beginning to see like a brand musical chair. We have new brands coming. They are buying over the current brands. We are looking at the Hyatts becoming the Meridians, the Westons becoming the Hyatts. We have new names mushrooming every other day with new hoteliers entering the industry. I hear thousands of new rooms have been added to the Sri Lankan hospitality industry as well, same as in my country. So in light of this, we are beginning to see a lot of, the brand clarity is missing. There's a lot of confusion in the minds of consumers. What is this brand all about? We have many, many brand extensions, but today we are moving away from brand extensions to brand experiences. And in the minds of the consumer today, they are not able to see the differentiation amongst the different hotels. So it is a dire need at the moment to look at branding and to look at how can we carve a niche for ourselves in the very crowded hospitality industry. So I'm going to look a little bit into maybe some models got to change, where we have to tip it. The current pyramid has to be tipped from bottom up rather than looking at it from top down. And maybe right at the bottom is not many of you, but it is your customer and it's your frontline people. So I'm going to touch a little bit on tipping the way that we think about marketing and branding. This is a little bit on the different brand extensions that are coming that is confusing the minds of the consumer at the moment. So when you look at all these new names, Canopy, Autograph, Andes, the consumer is not too sure what is this brand all about. Which big brand does this hotel belong to? And when they see the smaller players, and we are beginning to see the emergence and the entry of many boutique hotels, who is actually shaping the big chains that are found today. So when the consumer is facing and looking at all these new names, we need to look at how we could have a prominent position in the minds of the consumer. So today we are talking about the top of the mind awareness in the minds of the consumer. How do you carve that particular advantage in or perception of the consumer? So if I were to really ask you now, what do you think, or if you have a piece of paper, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when I say, what is branding?
McDonald's.
Sorry?
McDonald's.
McDonald's is a brand. So if you were to just put it down, you know, what is the meaning of brand? I mean, everyone thinks that they know what is the meaning of a brand, or what really exactly is branding as a strategy or an exercise. But when you look at many of the research that has been done, up to today, there is no consensus on what really branding is all about. Most people tend to think, when you ask them what is branding, they tend to equate it with marketing or advertising, which in just a little bit I will show you. There is a difference between branding and what marketing and advertising is all about. And many people tend to say, whenever I ask people, when I do this exercise or the training, and I ask people, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Like what you have just mentioned, McDonald's, they tend to think about a name, or they tend to think about a logo or a trademark, but that's really not what branding is all about. And the term, when it comes to many writing that has been done, whether in academia or in the tourism industry, it is a very elusive and complex term. And because it's so elusive, it is very difficult for you to move into a branding strategy, because the term in itself is so elusive. And how do you then go out there and speak to your staff on what branding is when the term itself is so elusive? So hopefully by the end of this 1 hour, we will have a little bit of an understanding on what are the dimensions of branding. So branding, I'll start off with what branding is really not. And contrary to the perception of many people in management, they tend to think that branding exercise, we start off by looking at a trademark. And they tend to think that it's a mission statement, but mission statement is a reminder to you and your staff what your organization stands for. So it is not a brand. It is not a logo, because that's your signature that you put up on your brochures or your communication material. It's not your service, because that is very tangible, and you'll realize in just a while that brand is very intangible. It's not a tangible. And advertising is more to convey your message to people, and that's really not what a branding exercise is all about. So what is the difference? Advertising is really about telling the people that you have a pair of shoes to sell. So that's pretty easy, right? So you advertise, use a form of advertising strategy, and the world knows what you're selling. Marketing is where you look at the display of your shoes, you look at the pricing strategy, and you make it attractive for people to buy your product. But branding is why, when you have two shops selling shoes, why would they want to come to your shop? And that's really what branding is all about. So when you have two hotels located next to each other, equally the same in your profile, why would your customers come to your hotel and not any other hotel that is standing next to you? So that is really what branding is all about. So before I look at what is a brand, I think it might be easier for us to look at who is a brand. And sometimes it's good to go out of the box and go beyond our hospitality industry and learn something from players in other industries. If we end up looking at ourselves in the hospitality industry, we will be running by the same game and the same rules. So when we look creatively beyond our industry, I think there's a lot that we can learn of what the other industries are trying to do, especially personalities and how they brand themselves. So when I teach on branding, there are two people I always say read up on them. And I think they are the best brand ambassadors of themselves. So if you can actually spend some time reading on these two personalities and how they brand themselves, I think we can learn a lot from them. The first one, you know who she is? See the smiles on some of you. You can connect with her? So she's worth, at the moment, $3 billion US. So what is it that about Oprah Winfrey that she's a really well-renowned brand? Anybody can resonate with her or tell me why she's a good brand?
Her rags to riches story.
She tells me?
Her rags to riches story.
Her rags to the riches story. So she tells stories, basically. So when you look at somebody like Oprah, when she conducts her shows, she's all about her persona. And she's all about herself. and the stories that she tells people. And one of the things that I'm going to be talking about later is what's your brand story. So if you can have a powerful story that Ofra brings to her audience, and then it becomes so successful as how she connects with an audience, that's really what branding is all about. Can we bring a brand story across to people that people can connect? We have, as human beings, we connect to stories. We don't really connect to facts very often. So she tells stories, and she's really wonderful in telling human stories that she's able to connect with her audience, right? And there's emotions that she brings across. Know who she is? Madonna. I think those of you who could identify with her, especially as another generation, but even the current generation, she can be a grandmother, but a lot of people can still relate to Madonna. And if you look at some of her books on Madonna the brand, I think she is really wonderful in talking about how she has never reached a stagnation point in her singing career. She has never reached a decline in a product life cycle where you see whether it's a hotel or any product that reaches a stagnation of maturity and then end up declining. But this is one lady, either through her persona, through her songs, which is her product, the way she pitches herself and connects with her audience, as well as the way that she partners, whether it's her real life partner or she partners with adopted children, or whether she partners with new young singers, or whether she partners with a new religion. I think we all know what Madonna does, but she always excites her audience and she creates an emotion or emotional bonding with her audience. So Madonna has a lot to teach us because she's an icon, and she's not a singer, but I think she's an icon for anything that is hip and timeless youth, right? So where many hotels today have reached a point of stagnation in being looking old or sedated, she is one that who can teach us that despite her age, despite new competition, she's always having an eternal or timeless youth. So what does she do? Some of the things that we're going to be looking at is what I learned from Madonna. So what really is branding? If you look at the two personalities, what I was trying to say to you is brand is not a product, so it's not Ofra, it's not Madonna, but the brand is about the feelings or the emotion that it elicits from the audience or whoever is going to be staying in a hotel or buying a particular product. So it's not cognitive, it's not here, but it's so much more than that. It's more on feelings of how we relate to a particular product. So today when you look at our customers, when they come into a hotel, they are not looking at the product features, but they're looking at a space where they can emotionally connect. So that is why many hotels are looking at spaces for people to gather. Places where the experiences will be wonderful to capture on Instagram and share to the world around us. So it is not the tangible, so it's not the product that we are looking at, but it is an emotion. So why is emotion so important in branding or the branding of hotel? So when you look at branding, branding is actually everything. Right? It's not the hotel feature. So anybody knows who this guy is?
Raffles Hotel?
Raffles Hotel. So he is actually the brand ambassador of Raffles Hotel. Who is he? He's not the top management, he's not the GM, he's not the CEO, he's not the director. He is actually the car porter. He opens the door for cars, you know, when guests arrive. But when the guests see him, they are able to resonate or they are able to identify themselves with a product, which is the Raffles Hotel. They haven't even stepped in, but he is the ambassador, he is the icon of Raffles Hotel. How they have done it over time is because of his personality and how much of importance that they have given to somebody like him. So he stands at the door. You will notice that he is not the same person over the last 50 years. The previous one died, and then they have a new one that looks exactly like him. Right? And now they sell a mascot, they sell keychains, they sell various products of Mr. Singh. Because he is the Raffles Hotel. Right? There's a message over here that I want to share with you, that sometimes it is not the product, the architecture of the Raffles Hotel. It's not the $1.5 million carpet that we see down there. It's not the thousands of hundreds of thousands of dollars of the